In this video, I'm going to cover 5 things that you need to know in order to be able to eat right. They are macronutrients and micronutrients, dietary composition of macronutrients, glycemic index and glycemic load, calories, and base metabolic rate. I will also be dispelling some common misconceptions about food and the nutrients and calories that they carry. First, macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients are contained in large amounts in the food we eat. The macronutrients are carbohydrate, protein, and fat. Fiber and water are also a type of macronutrient, but usually we pay more attention to carbohydrate, protein, and fat because these provide us with energy. And the energy we get from macronutrients contribute mostly towards our metabolism. Micronutrients, on the other hand, are required only in small amounts. They are vitamins and minerals, and they help in various functions, for example, in relation to our immune system. Therefore, they help in disease prevention and other aspects of growth as well. I commonly hear people say this: I'm on a zero carbohydrate diet, I'm on a protein and fat only diet. Or they even say things like, eggs have no carbohydrate in them. I know exactly where this is coming from, and I'm going to dispel this misconception today. If you think that egg only has protein in it and it does not have any carbohydrate, then you're not alone. I used to think that way for the longest time when I was a kid. Let's look at the macronutrient and micronutrients contained in an egg. An egg, if it is quite large, can weigh up to 70 grams. And in this 70 grams, there are 70 calories. I will be explaining what calories are. And there is 1 gram of carbohydrate, 6 grams of protein, 5 grams of fat, and 0.5 gram of micronutrient. And while it is true that egg is a very high source of protein, okay, it's a source of high protein, but it is not without carbohydrate. It is also a source for fat and micronutrients and carbohydrate. Vegetables like spinach are often associated with being a source for micronutrients mainly, okay, but the truth is the highest macronutrient found in spinach is carbohydrate, okay, and of course it has a lot less calories. This is 400 grams of raw spinach here. It has only 23 calories. It has a high content of water if it's raw, and protein 2.9 grams, 3.6 grams of carbohydrate, 0.4 grams of sugar, 2.2 grams of fiber, and 0.4 grams of fat. So the highest macronutrient in vegetables like spinach is carbohydrate. So the misconception that I want to dispel by giving you these 2 examples is that any food is not a source for a single macronutrient or micronutrient. Remember that. Any food that you eat contains many different types of macronutrients and micronutrients in them. We just finished discussing macronutrients and micronutrients and the sources for these 2 types of nutrients. We also address a common misconception that rises from the assumption that each of the micronutrient has exclusive sources, meaning one type of food is a source for only one type of macronutrient. Next, we are looking at dietary macronutrient composition. This is represented as a range for the three types of macronutrients. The percentage that makes up of an individual's diet for each type of macronutrient is determined by factors like an individual's gender, their size, their lifestyle, and a part of lifestyle is determined by their vocation and of course the person's age, right? So for example, given someone like me who's already in mid-50s and I'm a female, I'm a teacher who leads a moderately active lifestyle, and I'm of a small stature. So given these 5 factors, I would be fine eating a dietary macronutrient composition of 40% carbohydrate, 30% protein, and 30% fat. And similarly, if you take another individual who is a male, medium build, and has a very active lifestyle, but also engaged in a vocation like gardener, so his work is very labor intensive, also in mid-50s, he would be fine eating 50% carbohydrate, 25% protein, and 25% fat. This food pyramid is wrong, and this wrong food pyramid has been widely taught, and I think it still is being taught in school as part of science and biology, and students are being tested to produce this food pyramid as a correct answer, and as a result it is quite problematic in the sense that if we adhere to this food pyramid as a guide to how we eat, then we will most probably end up overweight or obese. That's why between 1975 to 2016, the number of overweight people in the world has tripled, and currently there are more than 2 billion people in the world who are obese. This misconception comes from misinterpretation, a combined misinterpretation of the composition of macronutrients in our diet, and the assumption that one food is a source for only one type of macronutrient, right? So we are supposed to take 50% carbohydrate, so it is assumed that carbohydrate only comes from bread, cereals, and potatoes. Not true. There are better, healthier carbohydrates like fruits and vegetables. So this here is the correct food pyramid. Notice that 50% of our diet should come from fruits and vegetables. You can pause the video and take a look at the rest of the food in this food pyramid. It is important for us to select food with low glycemic index as a source of the 40 to 50% of carbohydrate that makes up our daily diet. Now, what is glycemic index? Glycemic index is a measure of how much of the food that we eat will be converted into glucose and how quickly this food is digested into glucose and released into the bloodstream. Now, you can find the glycemic index for most type of food at this website, researchgate.net. What is considered low glycemic index is anything below 55. Medium glycemic index is anything between 56 to 69, and high glycemic index is between 70 to 100. Glycemic index helps tell us what type of food that we should choose as a source for the macronutrient carbohydrate. For example, if you like to eat bread, wholemeal bread has a glycemic index of 56, which puts it in a medium glycemic index food, whereas white bread has a glycemic index of 70, which puts it in the group of food with high glycemic index. Why is it important to choose food with low glycemic index? I will explain in a little while after I have explained what is glycemic load. Glycemic load is a more useful number to refer to than glycemic index, in that it takes glycemic index into calculation of glycemic load. So what is glycemic load, or briefly, how is it different from glycemic index? Okay, glycemic load is a derivative of glycemic index, and it is indicative of a specific amount of food, meaning it tells you how much glucose will be released into your bloodstream and how quickly, based on a specific amount of food. Okay, for example, if glycemic index for wholemeal bread is 56, that's for one type of food. But when I speak about glycemic load, I have to be specific as to the amount of the food. So I have to talk about glycemic load in one slice of bread or in two slices of bread. So it is in reference to a specific amount. So this is a more useful index. Okay, you can still use glycemic index to choose your type of food, but to choose the quantity of food, or to choose the quantity of that type of food, glycemic load is more useful. Let me show you. For example, we already know wholemeal bread has a glycemic index of 56, and we look at the label of the food packaging, and we look at how much carbohydrate is in the food, in that quantity of food, and how much of fiber is in that quantity of food. Okay, so if you look at wholemeal bread, if you look at a pack of wholemeal bread, you will see that one slice of bread weighs about 35 grams. In that 35 grams, 15.6 grams is carbohydrate and 2.45 grams is fiber. So to get the net carbohydrate, you take the carbohydrate weight and deduct the fiber weight from it. So 15.6 minus 2.45, net carbohydrate is 13.5 grams. You take 13.5 grams, you multiply it by the glycemic index, 13.56 times 56, and you divide the product by 100. So you get a glycemic load of 7.364 for a single slice of wholemeal bread. So this puts a single slice of wholemeal bread in the low glycemic load category. So glycemic load changes according to the quantity of food you eat. So if you eat 2 slices of wholemeal bread, then your glycemic load that comes from eating the 2 slices falls into the medium category. And if you eat 3, it would shoot up into the high glycemic load. As promised, the reason why it's important to choose food with low glycemic index is because food with high glycemic index floods your blood with glucose, and when the glucose level in your blood is high, there is more insulin produced, and insulin actually dampens or slows down your body's ability to burn fat. So you burn less fat when there's more glucose in your blood. So you will not be able to lose weight. When you're setting out to eat right, make sure you choose food with low glycemic index over food with high glycemic index as your source for each class of the macronutrients. Eat the quantity of low glycemic index food that you have chosen in a manner that gives you low glycemic load for each and every meal. And the third thing is eat for the body you want to attain and keep. So have a picture of your future self, how much you will weigh, what is your body fat percentage, what is your body muscle percentage, what is your bone density, and eat for that body that you want to attain and keep. Most of us make the mistake of eating to lose weight, and this does not work because after we've lost the weight, we revert back to our old way of eating, and guess what? We will revert back to our old body. Simple. And finally, find out your base metabolic rate and use this to guide your choice of food. What is base metabolic rate and how do you arrive at your specific base metabolic rate? I will show you in a bit. Before I proceed to show you how to find your base metabolic rate, let me explain the term calorie. All foods that you eat contain calories, and these shows the amount of energy released when the food that you eat is broken down. Okay, so if you eat more calories than you need, okay, to get the energy for your metabolism, whatever that is in excess will be stored as fat, and you will become overweight and eventually obese. Where do you find calories? You can search at the same website I mentioned just now, researchgate.net, for calories contained in each type of food. For processed food like bread and such, look at the label at the back. It's usually in very fine print, but if you look hard enough, you can find it. It will give you a calorie per serving from which you can work out. You can take a serving that is smaller than the recommended serving. So take the trouble to read these things on your food from now onwards. Finally, let me show you how to calculate your base metabolic rate. This differs from individual to individual. You can go to this website, just key into Google for BMR calculator, and you will go to this website. And what you can do is you can key in your age. I'm keying in my age. Oops, it just given away a secret. And my height and my weight. And then I click on calculate, and here is my BMR, which is a base metabolic rate, which means that if I am sedentary, I just sit around the whole day, I can only eat 1,773 calories each day. However, if I take a little bit of exercise, I usually exercise 4 to 5 times a week. That means I can eat 1,572 calories a day. So I hope this video has been helpful and it inspires you to start eating right.